This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, our final show in the Peg before heading to Hamilton for the Grey Cup. And who was it? The Beach Boys sang Good Vibrations. Good Vibrations everywhere on Winnipeg right now. Great win for the Jets last night. Kyle Connor is tied for the NHL lead in goals. Jets are back on the practice ice tonight, and the Bombers are getting ready to take on the Montreal Alouettes, trying to win their third Grey Cup in 4 seasons. We're all over it today. We are going to spend quite a bit of time talking Jets. We're looking forward to having Murat on. Murat, of course, at the game last night, and we'll get his reaction to the first 15 games of the season, as well as the scintillating run that Kyle Connor is on. But we'll also talk Cole Perfetti, Nikolai Ehlers, who had big games last night as well, and look ahead to the weekend, taking on the Buffalo Sabres and the Arizona Coyotes. Jamie Thomas is going to jump on for some more Jets talk early on, and then we'll get into some Bomber talk and really the historical significance of what the Bombers could achieve with a win on Sunday. No better person to do that with than the Scooch, the historian of Winnipeg sports, if you will, Joe Pascucci. So we'll do that a little bit later on. Just before we bring in Michael Remis, got to give a big thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Jets, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Nick and Nicky DQ, F Apparel, Vita Health, Wallace & Wallace, Canadian Club, Manitoba Battery, Aquatech, and our friends at Modern Man Barbershops. Big shout out to the Mo Bros. The guys are helping us raise money for men's health all month long. Remis, what's going on? Big win last night, and I'm fired up to get out to Toronto and Hamilton later on today.
Yeah, what a game for the Jets. Game of the year. You had everything. You had a lot of goals, fights. Some big saves from Hellebuck. Nice bounce back from that game against Dallas. The Jets are continuing to roll. And was it like a week or 2 weeks ago, we were looking at like Scheifele and Kyle Connor's stats. We're like, what's going on with these guys? They're like not even point per game. Come on. What is this? And they went on an absolute heater last week. And there they are again. And Kyle Connor, 2 more goals. He's now got 20 points in 15 games to lead the Jets. And he's also leading the NHL in goals, tied with Austin Matthews. Absolutely incredible. And Josh Morrissey, everyone's just getting 4 assist games lately. We had Iafallo, then Scheifele, Morrissey.
Franchise records every couple games.
Yeah, every couple games, franchise. And everyone's giving you a shout out in the chat, Huss, for calling Nikolai Ehlers to score. And there he was, getting on the board with 2. Last night, he probably looked at the stat sheet and was like, "Man, I can't be behind Brandon Dillon in goals." No offense, and now they're tied with 4.
I love Brendan Dillon being there with 4 goals. What a week! What a week he had. Yeah, it was a good one. We called Ehlers last night, and I don't know how many of you jumped on the WST parlay, but that's 2 in a row. Some people are calling me a human stimulus package. Not sure that that's fair at this point, but I will take it. Man, it was very nice. Cole Perfetti early on got the point, and then Perfetti with that absolutely scintillating setup of Nikolai Ehlers, who tapped that one into the wide open net. We were in a good spot. It just needed the Winnipeg Jets to win, and they got it done. But, just to your point about Connor, who sort of quietly has just exploded in the last week and a half, and all of a sudden, as you mentioned, is tied for the league lead in goals. It wasn't too long ago, Reem, that we were sitting here talking about Scheifele was after the Arizona game, I guess. Scheifele and Connor were at 9 points, along with Mason Appleton, Nito Niederreiter, and the top 7 players on the Winnipeg Jets were separated by just 1 point, 8 or 9 points each. Fast forward 4 games later, Kyle Connor has 13 goals on the season, 20 points in 15 games. And Mark Scheifele 18 points in 15 games. And don't look now, Josh Morrissey, a lot of people thought that, maybe last year was a blip. I know that his total, the over-under for his points on the season was 56.5 after going over 70 last year. Well, Josh is just 1 point off a point-a-game pace now after his 4-assist performance last night. But maybe the biggest development has just been Cole Perfetti continuing to be incredibly productive every time he's out on the ice. Nikolai Ehlers getting it going with a couple goals last night, and all of a sudden you look at that group that was all at 8 or 9 points, and it's a little more distributed towards the top with the massive week that Connor and Scheifele have had. And we can't forget about Alex Iafallo, who's just 2 points off a point-a-game pace as well.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible us looking at this Jets scoring depth. It was a couple weeks ago, we were like, oh, this Jets third line of Niederreiter, Appleton, Lowry, they're actually the top line now. And they were carrying the mail, and we were like, come on, where's the top line, man? Where's Connor, Scheifele, Iafallo been? Well, a couple, 4-assist game for Iafallo, 4-assist game for Scheifele, Kyle Connor rocketing to the top of the leaderboard. And then, and now it's like, hey, how about that second line? Nemestikov, Perfetti, Ehlers. Ehlers, why isn't he scoring? What's going on here? And, Nikolai Ehlers, Potts, too, yesterday. How about that forecheck by Nemestikov setting up Morgan Barron for a goal? And Cole Perfetti, again and again, showing this elite vision. What's a good way to get Nikolai Ehlers a goal? Oh, just provide him with a wide open net. Just, he's got the puck high slot. Everyone thinks, goalie's coming out. Everyone thinks he's going to shoot, and just a quick dish. And it was incredible on, that goal and the no-look pass by Scheifele, the backhand to Kyle Connor. These guys are just beside the net all alone.
That's a highlight of the year. That is one of the passes of the year. I must have watched that thing half a dozen times afterwards. I was sitting in 316. I was in that end, and you saw that play develop. And, honestly, that's got to be a top 5 goal of the year by the time we're done 82. The vision and the ability to rip that pass from the backhand to Kyle Connor, who, there's finishing, and then there's that. An absolute laser rope right to the top corner. It was just an absolutely beautiful goal. And listen, when you have players that are that good, that are feeling it the way Scheif and Kyle Connor are right now, that's what you get. And there was a bunch of highlights last night, but that one really did stand out as, I think it speaks to just where this team is at right now and the run that top line is on, kind of reestablishing themselves as the go-to guys when it comes to Jets offense.
Yeah, that game almost reminded me of the Nashville game. A bit of a quiet first period, and then the team explodes, and the game kind of explodes. Good, wide open in the second with a lot of goals. Then both games ending with a 6-3 final. We've talked a lot about the power play, Huss. The Jets power play going 2 for 4.
Power play's back.
The power play's back. They've now got 7 power play goals in their last 6 games after going a number of games without scoring any power play goals. The penalty kill, they did allow 2 power play goals, they went 3 for 5, and you definitely saw New Jersey, their puck moving, even without Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. Timo Meier in the slot, just turning and firing that one past Connor Hellebuck. And a couple other notes. This was fascinating to me. I didn't know. Do you know about the Jets' dominance against the Devils? 17, 2, and 3 now in the last 22 games against the Devils. And the Jets, they seem to lock it down after 2. They get a lead 6-0-1 when leading after 2. And when scoring 3 or more has 8-2-1. So it's the recipe for the Jets. Score all your goals, score 3 in the second period, and then lock it down. And I think they're certainly rolling right now. Second, tied for second in the Central Division. And I'm having a lot of flashbacks to last year. The Bombers are in the Grey Cup, and the Jets are on a heater, and we're like, hey, this team's actually good. I don't know. Remember, doesn't this feel a lot like last year?
It does, but it doesn't.
That's fair. I see what you're saying.
Listen, I think that the start last year was amazing. And listen, by record, they were better last year than they were through 15 games. The Jets right now, or 8-5-2. Last year they were 10-4-1. But I have to admit, I have a way greater belief of the sustainability of this right now with the way the team is playing in so many aspects. And hey, listen, it looked great last year. And maybe if you just rewound to, this very time, maybe we were saying a lot of the same things. But I don't think we've ever seen a team that is deep as this Winnipeg Jets team is, that is getting his balanced scoring, that is getting contributions from everybody up and down the lineup, and dominating at 5-on-5 the way that they have at times this year. So, we'll see what happens. It is a long season. There will be some ups. There will be some downs. There'll be stretches where they don't play well. But, in a lot of ways, sometimes you have to learn, from your mistakes, and you have to learn from the past. Last year, in the second half of the season, the Winnipeg Jets repeated some very concerning trends of previous years. The goal this year will be to have a great start, but continue that. And I just feel that this team is made to give themselves a much greater chance of getting to contend in the Central Division and staying there, as opposed to what happened last year, where they were thanking their lucky stars they had the great start, because in the second half of the year, they basically weren't playing at a playoff level and, had to win a bunch of big games late in the season just to avoid a big time collapse. But again, we don't have to worry about the second half of last season right now. Live in the present. And speaking of the present, Friday and Saturday night games coming up at Canada Life Center. The Buffalo Sabres in town Friday night, and then the Arizona Coyotes on Saturday. So some nice weekend games, couple days of practice. The team did practice today, Reem. I guess we should give a quick update. I mean, there is a little bit of breaking news. The one downer of last night, the NHL's fastest man, Rasmus Kupari, was going a little too fast when he missed a check and ended up taking himself out. It was obvious he had a shoulder issue. He went to the bench. He did not return, and it sounds like Weber's just had an update on Kupari's status.
Yeah, that's too bad. And I actually agree with you. I mean, I say it feels like last year's in where they are in the standings and how we're at the Grey Cup, but yeah, what they're doing on the ice, certainly, especially 5-on-5, more repeatable, and you're really seeing the depth of the offense. And yes, Scott Arniel saying today he expects Rasmus Kupari to be out 4 to 6 weeks with a shoulder issue. I imagine Toninato, what they sent him down for conditioning before, you'd think that he would be the guy back. And they did make a lineup change, healthy scratching David Gustafsson yesterday, and putting in Stan going 11-7. And of course, the one game they go 11-7, the guy gets injured right away.
In the first period.
But it seemed to benefit them. Arniel said afterwards, like juniors, where you got 3 lines and try to get Morgan Barron in there. And with a couple days off, it seemed like everyone was benefiting from the extra ice time. So it was
well, you know what? Well, we'll hear from Arniel in just a second. We'll also hear from Nikolai Ehlers, who I'm sure, like many of you, I was hoping he was going to dish on that empty net to Appleton, but he wisely shot it into the net. But if he was able to rip it over to Appleton, it would have been a Gordie Howe hat trick. And hands up if you had that on your bingo card for last night, Nikolai Ehlers getting in a fight. And I'll say this, I think that what that shows, I mean, when you've got a guy like Nikolai Ehlers dropping the gloves, and Scheifele was getting into it afterwards, I mean, this team is engaged. We always hear these cliches, hey, we're in it, we're a team, we're playing for each other. They really are playing for each other right now. And I think credit goes right to the top with the coaching staff and certainly Captain Adam Lowry. But that was great to see. Thank God nothing bad happened. But I got to give Ehlers a lot of props for the way he stood up for Nemestikov last night after that boarding play and mixing it up a little bit to go along with the 2 goals that he scored last night.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Nikolai Ehlers drop the gloves before, and you probably don't want to see him do that all the time, but you do like to see no hesitation. Nemestikov takes a hit, and Ehlers is like, hey, I don't care who I have to go up against. I don't care if the guy's bigger than me. Remember him fighting against Braden Shen. He's also fought, show it to hockeyfights.com, Tyson Berry, Colton Sissons, Brad Marchand, and Ryan Getzlaff. This is Ehlers' fight card.
What a dance card Ehlers has.
What a day. I should check the ratings to see.
I don't think the ratings will be. What's his noted win? NHL pugilist Nikolai Ehlers. And I guess his family was in town. And he said he wasn't doing that anymore. And then, sure enough, in this game, he drops the gloves. Let's get to a few of these clips before Jamie Thomas joins us. Ehlers was a big story last night. Here's Scott Arniel on what he saw from Nick in addition to the 2 goals and, of course, dropping the gloves.
That's huge. We talked about him obviously the other day that missed a lot of training camp, and it takes time to get your game up and running, and now he seems to be going. And tonight he did a great job of holding on to pucks. He did a good job of getting the open ice, and obviously the jumping in there to stick up for a teammate, that goes such a long way. We've talked about family. We've talked about sticking together, and for him to do that in that situation against a pretty tough player in Smith, that goes a long way towards his teammates and really recognizing what he was doing.
Yeah, this team has been talking the talk about that. They are walking the walk, and that was a great example of it as well. Josh Morrissey, kind of quietly, you look at the scoreboard at the end of the score sheet at the end, quiet little 4-assist night for Morrissey. He was a big part of the success last night. Here's our Neil on JMO.
Mo's been, he had a last couple of games is obviously offensively he's still doing all the right things and just hadn't got any numbers with it. And, he's a guy that gets marked every night by the opposition. I mean, there's a big circle around his name every time we, any team we play. They know that they got to try to cut off his ice whenever they can. And tonight he did a real good job of distributing the puck and, finding the plays that kind of set up some of those goals. And, he's a big key for us back there, especially when he's a big part of that offense.
All right, so there's our Neil. And, it was a little bit of a surprise at the beginning of the game, or in warm-up, that 7 defensemen were out there. And then Logan Stanley was in and David Gustafsson was out. And it was a coach's decision. They wanted to get Stanley in for a game. And they wanted to maybe, get, a few of the forwards that were really feeling it, a few more shifts. As Remis pointed out, when Rasmus Kupari went out, that, they were down to 10 forwards, and there was plenty of ice time to go around. Here was Arnie on managing the short bench with only 10 forwards after Kupari's injury.
We don't play until Friday, and I was hoping that we had 11 forwards, but I was going to get, Ehlers more ice. I wanted to get Perfetti ice. I wanted to get Casey out there a little bit more, and they all could jump on that 4th line, and got to do that a couple times, and then obviously Coop got hurt.
Is there a playbook for when that happens? I mean, do you consider throwing a D up front? Like, what are the most important things to keep? It's
like junior hockey, back to the old days of 3 lines. And we're really the thing we kept emphasizing is don't get caught out on long shifts, because you're going back, whatever, 80 seconds later, you're going to go right back out there, 90 seconds later. So you had to be, make sure that, and it's tough when you do get caught on a long shift. But they knew it. They did a good job with everybody. Recognized that they were going out every 3rd shift and did the best they could to try to manage that. For me it was just for a stretch there, it was just making sure that Bear got his ice time, that he was getting out there.
All right, so there's Scott Arniel kind of giving a little bit of the insight from the coaching perch last night with only 10 forwards after the Kupari injury. One more from Arniel. On the Jets forecheck, which has been excellent. And in particular, folks, if you haven't seen this already, go check out Frankie Corrado on Twitter. He did a breakdown of the Jets' first goal and how Winnipeg just brought it to the Devils, creating chances off the turnover and then off the cycle, and going with making 2 line changes while the Devils were on until... Well, the red light went on courtesy of Kyle Connor, but here's just Arniel on the positives coming out of the forecheck for Winnipeg.
Yeah, we talked all week about, we talked about Dallas, we talked about these guys. These good teams, you got to make them play in the rink. And, if you have a play coming through that neutral zone and you can make it. But A lot of times this game is about, putting it below the hash marks and then going to work, and we're a pretty good forechecking team. We do a good job of staying above people, and our contact when first guy's there, second guy gets there quick, and right, like you said there's some real good rewards from that forecheck, and it's a big part of our game.
All right, there's Scott Arneal. Let's, Jamie Thomas is going to join us, but I want to play a couple clips here from Morrissey and from Nikolai Ehlers. Let's go with 6, Remo. Josh talked afterwards about his big night, tying that franchise record with 4 assists.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's nights where make a lot of great plays and nothing happens, and other nights where right place at the right time and get rewarded too. So a couple of second assists out there tonight, but that's just, I think, sticking with it. And obviously, when you put up 6 and we got the type of players we got here, then sometimes you get the benefit of getting assists. So it was a great win for us, and obviously nice to get rewarded with some assists there.
Here's another interesting clip from Morrissey, and it's on the team getting to the front of the net. And I have to admit, we were thinking about the struggles of the power play and how it looked somewhat stagnant, and there wasn't a lot of action in front of the net. They played that game against the New York Rangers, and we saw what Chris Kreider was doing during the power play. And it seemed like the Jets learned a little bit of that. And in that Vegas game, when they finally broke the drought, a big part of it was just going to the blue paint, taking advantage of the numbers, and making things happen in around it. That's continued. And Josh Morrissey talked about the team's penchant now for mixing it up in front of the net.
I think if you're doing the right things, that's when you tend to get rewarded. And I think that each goal, like I said, is a little bit different, but generally the theme of having someone at the front of the net, it's a tough place to go, but we've seen many great players get rewarded there over their careers, and it's not even so much necessarily the resulting goal in front of the net, but just, it holds a defender there. So now there's more room around the rest of the ice for movement and opportunities to create some switches and stuff like that. But obviously the big thing is just getting to the front of the net and winning battles, puck recovery, and outworking the opposition, and then letting the skill kind of take over from there.
All right, so there's Josh Morrissey coming off of his big night. Just before we bring in Jamie Thomas, let's hear from Nikolai Ehlers. And, Ehlers scored 2 goals, but I think what most people were talking about after the game was him dropping the gloves again.
My mom and my sister are in town right now, and earlier today I told them that my fighting days are probably over with all the injuries I've had. So, that lasted about 5 hours.
Did it look like, it went on for quite a while, it looked spirited, and then at the end, did it kind of go on maybe a beat longer than you expected it to?
It's not on him. I was kind of holding him, and I thought that kind of showed that we were done. At least I was. But I didn't say anything to him, and he didn't say anything to me, so I don't blame him for giving me another one.
So there's Nikolai Ehlers on the scrap. And one more clip from Ehlers. He's not going to get many easier goals than that beauty setup from Perfetti. Here's what he saw in that goal.
I saw an empty net that I was trying to hit. When it's not exactly going for you, you're sometimes gripping the stick a little too hard. In that moment, I was maybe gripping it a little too hard.
All right, so all smiles in the Jets room after the game last night. Listen, just before we bring in Jamie Thomas, folks, the Movember push continues here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. We've got a great team of WSTers that are growing stashes and walking their kilometers, helping us raise money for men's health. The link is in the description. If you're listening to the podcast, get on over to Winnipeg Sports Talk if you're able to, and drop a donation in on the Movember link. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you can just click that QR code right in front of you and throw down and help us reach our goal for the month of November. We're doing it in conjunction with our friends at Modern Man Barbershops, who now have 8 locations in Winnipeg. And they've got you covered, fellas, with everything you need, especially after Movember. If you need to get a shave, they'll also do haircuts, beard shaping, color services, and more. Book your look and make an appointment at modernmanbarber.com and give them a follow on Instagram as well. Got a great contest going on right now at Modern Man Barbershops. We will wait till next summer to take the plunge again with Aquatech, although if you are thinking about a pool project for your home, talk to them now and get going on it. But their focus right now really is on home renovations. A lot of people don't know that home renos start with Aquatech as well. With thousands of renos as their foundation, Aquatech can upgrade any space in your home. If you're ready to enhance your kitchen, your bathroom, or even add a man cave to your home, visit aqua-tech.ca to learn more about their whole home renovations, including financing options. It is gorgeous outside right now. Don't take it for granted, everybody, but just know that it is going to be getting cold very soon, and you need to be ready. Of course, Manitoba Battery is there for you to get you ready to make it through the long, hard Winnipeg winter, making sure you're getting from point A to point B and not calling a friend for a ride when your car won't start. What you need to do is get on over to Manitoba Battery. You'll be shopping local and getting the best prices in town, beating the pants off the big box stores. And not only will you get the best price on your battery for your car or truck, but you'll get the best service because Manitoba Battery has free delivery for any purchase over $60 within the perimeter of Winnipeg. It's just that easy. So get on over to manitobabattery.com. You can order online. You can give them a call at 783-8787. Their great staff will be able to help you out by the phone as well. Or if you want to pop in for a free battery test and see them in person, you can always do that down at Manitoba Battery at 1026 Logan Avenue. And just before we bring in JT, a big shout out to our friends at Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And I have a feeling there'll be quite a bit of Canadian Club on the menu this weekend in Winnipeg and heck in Hamilton as well for Blue Bomber fans as the Bombers get ready to try to win the Grey Cup. You've enjoyed CC at the stadium all year long. Now it's time to stock up, get ready for Grey Cup and the holidays. Pop down to your local Manitoba liquor marts for the full selection of Canadian Club products. And don't forget, when you're in your local beer store, keep your eye out for Canadian Club and Ginger Ale in 473 milliliter cans, just to change it up, a very popular Bomber game drink as well. And of course, this weekend and throughout the holidays and always, please enjoy responsibly. All right, let's get out to the Iceplex and welcome in Jamie Thomas of Winnipeg Jets TV to get the latest on the club coming out of a skills practice today. What's up, Jamie? How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I couldn't be better. I mean, fired up about the hockey team. Cannot wait to get to the Hammer for the big game on the weekend for the Bombers. It's a good time to be a Winnipeg sports fan after the show tonight.
Okay. Is Radio Row still going at the Grey Cup? I'm trying to remember.
Well, I mean, we'll do our best to try to step up and represent. I mean, I think that we know in today's well, first of all, TSN shut all the freaking stations down. So there's a start why a lot of places won't be there. But we will be there. I'm sort of disappointed I'll be missing those two games on the weekend. It should be real fun with the Friday and Saturday night games. But we'll watch the games from Hamilton and we'll get ready to see the Bombers hopefully come home with a championship. But man, it's been fun watching this team last night. Another big win. You're around the team on a daily basis, Jamie. Winning is fun. We all know that. I mean, show me a team that's really enjoying themselves. I'll show you a team that probably is playing well and getting results. But I'll tell you what, I mean, the way this team has been building game by game, really from the start of the season with that incredible performance in Calgary where they weren't rewarded with a win. They're doing the right things. They're seeing the results, and it seems like this team has a lot of momentum going into this next stretch of games.
It sure does. And I think a lot of credit has to be given to the team. And, once Gabriel Velarde got hurt back on October 17th, there was a lull there. I think there was obviously some disappointment losing a player of his caliber. And then there was that kind of lull of how these lines were going to start working together. And could they, and there's, clearly there's a stretch there past where one line would go one night, another line the next night. I think last night against the Devils, all three lines, because they were down essentially to 10 forwards for most of the night, produced offense. And the fact that, the Scheifele line has been going, the Lowry line clearly has been going. But now you've added the Nemestikov line, who is starting to really feel it. And I think a large part of that is Nikolai Ehlers is looking more like himself. So I know clearly losing Rasmus Kapari, who's out for 4 to 6 weeks, as told by Scott Arniel today. That's a big loss. I thought, he was, a key part of what they're doing. But the top three lines have been going really well. They've been defending well, and Connor Hellebuyck is playing the way that we know he can. So that was an exciting game, and it's usually it's tough when an Eastern Conference team comes to town in terms of entertainment. But that was a highly entertaining game last night at Canada Life Center.
Well, you know what? It's funny you mentioned Helly, and I mean, listen, I still think he's got another level. I mean, we've seen his level, and we've seen it at times this year. But that Helly's going to get into a groove at some point, and when that happens, this team is going to be even more dangerous. And it's funny because there was a point that you sort of pointed out where this team was being carried by Adam Lowry, Mason Appleton, and Nino Niederreiter. And, as you would want a captain to do, a guy leading the way, and now everyone else has followed. We joked that it was about 2 weeks ago, or probably less than, we were talking about the show, and we were looking at the scoring leaders, and Mason Appleton's tied for the lead. You had 4 guys at 9 and 3 guys at 8. Well, Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor have been reminding everybody over the course of the last week and a half that
Hold on a second.
It's great that everyone else is chipping in, but we're still the guys that are making it happen and turning red lights on. And I mean, this run that line is on is it's been fun to watch. It's a big part of why the team's had the results it's had lately. And you wake up this morning and there's Kyle Connor tied for the league lead in goals and 20 points in 15 games, making it happen. I mean, this connection between Scheifele and Connor is as good as we've seen it. And I think a big part of it goes to those guys doing the little things and being more committed in their own end and what that's doing to get the puck more. And when those guys have the puck, they can do a lot of damage.
Yeah. Generating offense from defense. Sorry, buddy, I didn't mean to cut you off. I got a little bit of it's the internet here at the old Iceplex. I think, generating offense from defense is basically what the coaching staff wants, and they've been excellent in their own end. And I think, Kyle Connor could have had 4 goals last night. I think of the 2 posts that he hit. He goes across the front of the net, goes to his backhand and rips one off the crossbar. Like only Kyle Connor can, right? That looks like a scoring chance that isn't really there. And then he does the backhand and almost beats Schmid under the bar with the backhand. So they've been playing well in their own end. There've been a lot of getting back, hustling back the defensive end of the ice, which we all know isn't the funnest thing. Anybody's played hockey, not the funnest thing in the world to do is play defense, especially when you're world-class players like that. But it has been noticeable this year, the effort in the defensive end of the ice, and it's working out for them. Alex Iafallo plays a large role in this too, Huss, right? It's just like the fact that he has fit in so seamlessly speaks to what type of player this guy is. And I talked to John Rosen, who covered the Los Angeles Kings for a long time, and he said, when Alex Iafallo was in Los Angeles and he played with Andrei Kopitar, and of course, Ilya Kovalchuk was a King at that time. Kopitar preferred Iafallo because he knew where Iafallo was going to go. And that's no knock to Kovalchuk, clearly a world-class player in his own right. But I think that's where Scheifele and Connor have appreciated Alex Iafallo, because they know where he's going. They know what he's going to do. They know where he's going to go when he doesn't have the puck and where he's going to go when he does have the puck. So he's been a big part of that top line. And it's great to see them going. It was fun when the third line was stealing all the headlines, but this is Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor's team and Josh Morrissey's team. And when they're going, this team is much more dangerous. They are the team that we think we know they can be, especially when those 3 players, those elite players, are going the way they are right now.
Well, and you know what? I mean, listen, while we're talking about the top scorers on the team and seeing Scheifele and seeing Connor, kind of reestablish themselves as the guys at the top of that list, we can't omit Josh Morrissey, who, as Scott Arniel said, had been playing well, maybe hadn't seen his name show up on the score sheet as much. That got rectified in a big way last night.
Yeah, I think, I don't want to say we take him for granted, because after a year that he had last year, you're like, well, where else can he go? And I think a night like last night, we saw exactly where it can go. You put up 4 assists, you look at the score sheet, holy cow. it's 4 assist night for Josh Morrissey because you're so focused on what Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor did, and Nikolai Ehlers, of course, with the fight and the goal, or the 2 goals that he had as well. So there's lots of places where our attention was going. So it's easy to see why we didn't see Josh Morrissey and his 4 assists until the night was over. But he is as good as it gets right now. He's, Dylan DeMello, they go up against the other team's best forwards on a nightly basis. They log a lot of minutes, even though they went with 7 defensemen last night. You got to make sure you get your big minutes there. But when the game's on the line, you're looking at Josh Morrissey and Dylan DeMello to lock down the other team when you're up a goal. And certainly when you need offense, you're looking at Josh Morrissey as well.
Jamie, it's fun to talk about the goals that are being scored right now and the lamp going on. But it really does seem this team is committed to doing the right things in so many other ways. And I brought up Frankie Corrado's breakdown of the Jets' first goal. I'm not sure if you've seen that today, but it is definitely worth a watch on how the Winnipeg Jets continued putting pressure on New Jersey and really owning them on the cycle for a good period of time, to the point where they were able to change twice, completely deplete the Jersey, the personnel that they had on the ice, which led to that first goal. And, in a way, like, creating chances off the cycle is the bread and butter of Adam Lowry and his lines game. But the other lines are getting into that as well. And when you add that dynamic to players like Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele and Cole Perfetti and Nikolai Ehlers, good things are going to come. And I mean, all of these things the coaches are preaching, I think, are being reinforced right now with the results that the team's getting on the ice and obviously on the score sheet.
Yeah, let's look. I'm going to go way back here, and not maybe just back to last season. The first time Winnipeg played in New Jersey, remember they're up 2-1 going into the third period. And I remember Scott Arneal saying yesterday, the Jets have to play fast against a team like New Jersey, or else you get yourself into trouble. And I remember last year in the third period, the Jets slowed down their game a lot. They went back, retrieved the puck, and New Jersey was right in on top of them, forced a couple of errors, then bang, bang, it's 3-2, right? And the Devils go on to win that hockey game. Well, the Jets played fast last year against New Jersey, beat them 6-1 on home ice, and they were all over them. They were the quicker team yesterday. And New Jersey, you saw in stretches, and I know they didn't have Jack Hughes and they didn't have Nico Hischier, but there's a lot of talent and a lot of speed on the Devils lineup. New Jersey looked slow for the first 2 periods for sure yesterday, and that plays into the cycle and the Jets doing what they wanted to do in the offensive end of the ice and through the neutral zone. So they made New Jersey look slow by forcing them into mistakes and holding on to pucks. It was a real, I know they gave up 3 goals because New Jersey had a push there, and especially their number 1 power play scored a couple times last night. But that was Winnipeg's game for the majority of the evening. And New Jersey has made some teams look really bad this year. That was not the case last night. And, Adam Lowry made a point of it today. Yes, they were out without their 2 star players, but you have to take advantage of teams when they're missing their star players. And Winnipeg certainly did that last night.
Jamie, it seems like people around the league are starting to take notice. I mean, listen, if you look at the scoring leaders, you can't not notice Kyle Connor being right up there with Austin Matthews. We saw Dom Lucian from The Athletic put out his numbers right now. For the first time all year, all season, he has the Jets as a 100-point team with a very good chance of making the playoffs. But I think the basis for that is the 5-on-5 play. And, that if that is the foundation, if the Jets can count on that style, I mean, listen, sometimes you're going to get goal leads. Sometimes, if that can be what they bring night in and night out, it's the foundation of a really good team. The power play has now, well, we declared it. The power play is fully back, and that's a very good thing. Once Connor Hellebuck raises his level, and I think that in turn also helps out the PK, which has not been up to the Jet standard, certainly by numbers and what they've been in the past. This could be a pretty damn scary team right now for the rest of the Central Division in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I think you, and along with anybody else that covers this team, I felt from the start of the year they're at least a top 3 team in the Central. And a lot of that is to do with the teams below them, the Chicagos, the Nashvilles who are rebuilding. St. Louis, you're not sure what they are, but they're a top 3 team. But there's a lot more. I think that they learned a valuable lesson against Dallas, the 2 games against Vegas, that you can't force things, because veteran teams like Dallas and Vegas will make you pay, and we saw those three games they played against those respective teams. Well, last night they knew what New Jersey was, and they played their game. Connor Hellebuyck, as you mentioned, he was great in the third period when New Jersey had a push. Let's be clear about that. He ended up making 30-something saves on a good night for him. But he was solid when New Jersey had their push. That allowed Winnipeg to get their legs under them and get going again. But
beautiful. Hey, listen.
As those games were those couple where he gets a shutout.
Right on. Hey, just quickly, I got to give a shout out to Kabilis and Bridget and Leslie Mitchnuck, who have all made a nice little donation to our Movember team. Thank you very much. And Remis, what were you saying about Pringles?
So as I wait for Jamie Thomas, so Pringles is giving a little extra for each donation. So if you donate $50, Pringles the chips, will put a little sprinkle on top of that. So one of those, we got a nice $50 donation from Leslie, and Pringles gave an extra $25. So check it out on our page. Nice. Shout out to Pringles, Huss.
There we go, Mr. Pringle. So, dropping in 25 to the WST team. Right on.
So the link's in the description, winnipegsportstalk.com, Movember link at the top, and it's pinned in chat. So it's all in there. So thank you, everyone, for your support. This is pretty cool.
Jamie, speaking of Movember, Kyle Connor is sporting one of the filthiest dusters I've ever seen right now, but he might have to keep that beyond the month considering the way he's going right now.
Oh, one sec.
Dash, I appreciate everyone that does just that. So I'm waiting for Dylan DeMello to enter into the fray right here. Adam Lowry's looking real good, but to your point, if he keeps scoring the way he is right now, then you realistically have to start. You have to keep that duster. I mean, it's so good. And with the flow behind him, he looks really good. And I think Nikolai Ehlers needs to try growing a mustache, because I'd like to see the Danish. I'd like to see fly with a mustache, especially with the way he's been dropping the gloves. The way he did yesterday and held in there with Brendan Smith, who outweighs him by like 25 pounds, I think, at that point. So mustaches, hard to do, but when you can pull them off, you got to keep going with it.
Yeah, you know what? Here's a content idea for you guys. Take a picture of Connor, with the hair and the mustache, but what does this guy do for a living? I can't imagine what the submissions would be. But hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Did you see when I went to Nashville and threw the Kyle Connor photo up? Did you see that one?
I love those Nashville bits.
The girl that said he's a bull rider and his name is Glenn with two N's is still the best answer from a street. I hate, buddy, you knew this, you did this business. I hate streeters. The streeters is the worst gig in your life as anybody in sports when you go out and ask people what they think of trades. And I love fans. I respect your guys' opinions, but it is one of the worst jobs to do. So for those people in Nashville to deliver the way they did, I mean, clearly the guy asking questions led them perfectly down the path. But it's that's as good as it gets. And to full respect to, I think it was the Tennessee Titans who did that when they released their schedule to give us that idea. So that's what we do in the content business. We steal other people's ideas.
I love streeters for I don't know, maybe I like mixing it up with the fans more than some of you long-time Big J media people. But I'm in for it. Yeah, KFC is a drywaller in his spare time. I mean, Joe Dirt, all of these things. I mean, it's just, but as they say, he's on fire right now. That line is on fire, and the team, and it was really interesting to see the way the team played down to 10 forwards. And I'll give Arneal a lot of credit. If you were looking for a spot to maybe try that out, what chance with a couple days off before 2 games on the weekend was a nice spot to do it. And listen, Logan Stanley got in, and, he was able to, get a few shifts in. I'm sure that was nice for him after spending the amount of time that he's been in the box. And of course, Declan Chisholm getting some time with the Moose on a conditioning stint right now. But to focus in on the forwards, now, we're still awaiting Gabriel Velarde. He's skating. I imagine he's still a little ways away. So they will have to add somebody to the mix right now. And that's going to be an interesting decision right now. I mean, obviously, Dominic Toninato was up with the club earlier. If you're looking for a guy, I mean, I think if you're replacing Kapari in the lineup, you're looking for someone that can contribute on the penalty kill. Our old pal Axel, I think, would be right up, there. I mean, I would assume that Gus will be playing center on that line, along with Morgan Barron. But I mean, Axel, Toninato potentially into the lineup. And even maybe a Jeff Murat. I mean, I'm a big Murat fan. And certainly he's got a bit of a connection with Morgan Barron. It would be a nice opportunity for him. But did the coach say anything on a potential call-up and when they anticipate that happening with the Moose just about to head out on the road?
Yeah, and then the timing is almost perfect that they have to make this decision. Scott O'Neill had said today in his media availability the decision's being made. Clearly, they do have to add a forward before the Moose depart on the road. So I think, where it makes the most sense, I would, clearly we would all love to see what Jeff Murat has, but I think you have a guy like Dominic Toninato who's good in the face-off circle you're going to have there. And I also appreciate that you're going to have a penalty killer. So Axel Jonsson-Fjallby makes the most sense. So those two players, one of those two players, I think would probably be your best bet of who's coming up. But those decisions are being made right now as we speak. As for Gabriel Vilardi, the team kind of had a skills skate today. So it was forwards for 30 minutes, defenseman for 30 minutes with skills coach Dave Cameron. And Gabe Vilardi was out with the Jets, but was on the perimeter. He was, he's in the no contact yellow jersey and socks on the perimeter for the majority of the drills. You don't want him to get hit or bumped into by anybody at this point. Now the plan is, or the hope is, that he will take part of practice when the Jets go on the road and they have a practice in Tampa Bay, I believe on Tuesday next week. Clearly still be wearing the yellow non-contact jersey, but the hope is that he'll start taking part of practices more regularly on the road trip coming up.
And I mean, this is another topic that we've been discussing this week, and man, a good problem to have. Where does Vilardi go when he comes back into the lineup? I mean, listen, Alex Iafallo, and listen, this is credit to Mark and Kyle for the way they played. I mean, they got off to the great start playing with Vilardi. It took a little time after his injury for them to really start clicking with Alex Iafallo. But I think we've seen, he's a perfect complement to those guys because of all the little things that he does, how defensively responsible he is. And Jamie, beyond everything, just the fact that this guy is a monster when it comes to winning puck battles. And if you can have a guy playing with those players that is going to win more than his fair share of puck battles, keeping the puck on their stick and getting it to 55 and 81, pretty hard to break up. And then you look at the second line right now, and I mean, can't say enough about Vlad Nemetsnikov, what he's doing. Because he has in a lot of ways been a catalyst for Cole Perfetti to take off, and now Ehlers rounding into form. You got nothing to worry about on that third line that keeps on doing what they're doing each and every night. I mean, there'll be some pretty significant decisions to be making, but all from positions of strength for Scott O'Neill, presuming that he's still, calling the shots as the interim head coach when Gabe Vilardi's ready to be activated and return to the lineup.
Yeah, if you honestly sit there, Huss, and take your pencil out and write the lines, you're like, okay, I'll put this guy here. And I'm like, oh, what? Wait, this line's going. So how does that work? You give yourself a headache. Clearly, Gabe Vilardi's going to take some time getting back into the lineup, but you honestly have to ask yourself how this works out. And you touched on it very well. Automatically, you're going, okay, well, Nemestikov going back to the fourth line is where he started, almost makes sense. But how do you do that when he's, as you said, been the guy that got Ehlers going, that was, he's such a patient guy with the puck, and he's defensively responsible to allow Cole Perfetti and Nikolai Ehlers to do what they're doing. But yeah, it's a legit, not a concern, but it gives you headaches thinking about what that has to be and how that looks up. But I see Murat's about to join the show, so I'm going to sit on the fence about where that goes, and you can ask Murat about what he thinks the line should look like in his next article, which is a great website. I would highly suggest you subscribe to it. It's been worth every penny that I've spent in my lifetime. I'm sure I billed True North for it, but I'm really glad, and I expect an athletic feat. Yeah, you got to put my testimonial in the italics and bold font. That's how impressed I am with The Athletic as a subscriber to it right now. And I want my toque, just like Murat's wearing right now, with Athletic, the big A on the front of it. We're saying that. Thank you.
Hey, Jamie, I do want to ask you one more thing, though, before we go. Listen, we've talked, we've spent there's lots of ink has been spilled about Mark Scheifele. Yeah. You've been around him and this team for the last number of years. We all knew what the expectations were in the offseason, how things took a turn, and then obviously the Thanksgiving bomb drop with the matching extensions. He has been, I mean, as engaged as I think we can remember him being for a long, long time, buying in and doing way more of the things that are now turning into, we kind of talked about the defense from offense, but man, he's playing with an engagement level and a physicality that maybe wasn't there before. That hit last night was as solid as we've seen in a long time, and obviously not afraid to mix it up as well. Just thoughts on Scheifele, his first 15 games of the season, and how important that has been to many different aspects of the Jets' success.
Yeah, we don't understand what it's like to be a professional hockey player and not knowing what your future looks like, and especially when you go into the last year of your deal and maybe the distraction that it provides. But for him to commit to being here and say out loud that, part of his legacy was wanting to play with one team his entire career, I think he meant it. He clearly did. And, the physical part of it, I recall, I think it was in the third period, they turned the puck over and there was an odd man rush. Everyone hustled back, including Mark Scheifele. So I agree with you that defensive commitment is there. And it said a little bit earlier with you, it's noticeable. And he has been tremendous. Sorry about that.
I'm getting
He's been tremendous for the majority of the season. You getting it too?
Yeah.
So emergency broadcast coming up on our phone. So I'm glad I'm not the only one. My internet is cut out.
It's just a test
in the Hockey for All Center. It's just thank you, Remis. It's just a test.
Well, listen, the rest
that,
of the rest of the NHL is getting an emergency alert about this hockey team right now. Hey, wake up! Kyle Connor's leading the league.
Hey, make sure you play Adam Lowry's sound when you get it a little bit later today. Has a great quote about Mark Scheifele and Nikolai Ehlers' physicality last night. So hopefully you get that sound soon from WinnipegJets.com.
We will definitely check that out a little later on. JT, great talking to you as always. Enjoy the next couple days, and good luck to the squad on Friday and Saturday.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. All right, there's Jamie Thomas. Hey, big shout out to one of our favorites, Mary Jane, who just made a November donation. Thank you very much, Mary Jane. We greatly appreciate it. All right, gang. Listen, we're going to bring Murat on. But as we mentioned earlier in the week, we are good to go right now for our big Men's Health Month contest with our friends at Vita Health. Of course, if you're looking for great prices on natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries, get on down to one of 6 Vita Health Fresh Market stores or online at myvita.ca. One of the things that you can check out right now, and guys, this is definitely the time to do it, is Prairie Naturals, Canada's #1 line of men's health supplements formulated to help the changing needs of a man's body, helping address the challenges with prostate health, andropause, low libido, low testosterone, stress, male energy, and performance. They're on sale all month at Vita Health, and we have got this beautiful autographed Trevor Linden jersey by the spokesperson for it. Full certificate of authenticity. It is an absolutely gorgeous jersey. And we're running the contest right now, which will also include for our winner the full run of Prairie Naturals supplements. Now, we were planning on doing this on Instagram and our website, but something's up with Insta where I'm not sure whether they're trying to, move away from these sort of contests where people tag people and follow. So we'll direct you to the website. Go to winnipegsportstalk.com/contest and enter there. We'll be picking a name every day throughout the month, and all of the qualifiers will be in a special marble race on November 30th, last day of the month, last day of Men's Health Month. And the winner will get this beautiful jersey autographed by Trevor Linden and the full line of Prairie Naturals supplements. Now, we do have we've got some qualifiers to announce right now. Congratulations to Spency. Way to go, Spency. We'll see you on November 30th. Riley Smith. What's up, Riley? Well done. Thank you for entering. And David Zirk. So those, we got on it a little late just because of the issues with the site. So those are our 3 qualifiers for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Go to winnipegsportstalk.com, enter. We'll announce a name per day going into the 30th. Maybe do a couple extras on a couple days, and then have a fun way to kick off to finish up Men's Health Month. And again, a big thanks to Vita Health and Prairie Naturals for this awesome prize. Pop down and find Prairie Naturals at your local Vita Health. Big shout out to our friends at Wallace & Wallace. As you know that they're the fencing experts in Winnipeg. They've been doing it since 1946. You've seen the fences and trucks all over the city. But they're also the overhead door experts in Winnipeg. And listen, that overhead garage door had lots of ups and downs through the summer and fall. But it's about to work a whole lot harder because winter puts much more stress on a garage door. The right time to prevent downtime this winter is now. Call Wallace & Wallace to book your inspection and maintenance service. Call today for residential and commercial overhead door sales and service. There's only one name or two you need to know, and that is Wallace & Wallace. And hey, with the holidays right around the corner, guys, how's the closet looking? If you need to up your menswear game, you might need to get down ASAP to F Apparel. Of course, F Apparel has custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and an incredible selection of menswear accessories. Would be a great Christmas gift as well for the man in your family that maybe needs a little bit of an upgrade in their menswear department. And you can get gift cards right now for the holiday season there. And don't forget, 15% discount for wedding parties when you get your suits at F Apparel. Pop down and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown. You can make an appointment or check them out online at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, let's get Murat in here. Talk a little more Jets before Joe Pascucci talks Grey Cup and Bombers with us later on. Murat, what's going on? Great to have you back on the program.
Hey, great to be back. What a time to be a sports fan in Winnipeg.
Dude, what a time to be doing this. I mean, I just get so fired up for the show. I mean, I listen, the Winnipeg Jets are legitimately firing up their fan base. And, I mean, the Bombers to be on the verge of a true dynasty. It is a lot of fun right now. And, you know, we always talk about, you know, we've been talking about the good vibes of the hockey team that have sort of permeated through training camp into the regular season. You add in what's happening with the football team. And, oh, by the way, it's freaking gorgeous outside, too. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of people feeling pretty good. A bit of a jump in Winnipegger steps right now, thanks to their hockey and football teams and Mother Nature for now.
Yeah, no doubt. I wasn't at hockey for all today. I'm sort of just making sure, kicking off or trying to finish off a cold. But I took a short walk in the sunshine. I got to tell you, I mean, this sunshine is exactly emblematic, I think, of Winnipeg sports feelings and vibes right now. That 6-3 win over New Jersey. I mean, yes, you're missing Jack Hughes. That's an enormous piece. Nico Hischier as well. That's an enormous pair of pieces. But to double up on a team that's that good and plays that quality of hockey, is coached so well. I think that it's a real feather in the Jets' cap right now. They've got a lot of what I want to call green flags, a lot of little underlying signs of a quality hockey team. Their foibles are obvious in the PK, for example, goaltending stats. PK relates to that. There are some things that they can work on, but I think that it's almost even to look at those and to be able to isolate what they are and look at an 8-5-2 record is another little cause of sunshine right now because it looks manageable for Winnipeg.
Well, I'm with you, and I kind of mentioned this to JT. I mean, the Jets at 5-on-5 have been awesome all season long. And if that is your foundation, the power play is back, as we've seen. I mean, they're looking great right now. I mean, I maintain that Connor Hellebuyck has another level, maybe two, that we've seen before that we fully expect him to get to. And I think that in addition to, you know, a little more success on the PK, I mean, you can make an argument that the Jets are covering off the most important bases right now. Some other things come around. They can be a big-time problem in the West.
Yeah, they're exactly those pieces shy of being a wagon right now. And that's something, it's a phrase that I didn't expect to be saying midsummer, let's say. You know, I didn't expect to be referring to the Jets as a potential wagon. And yeah, you'd want to put, you do want to see better results from Connor Hellebuyck. You go back in the 4 seasons before this one, 4 seasons in a row from 2019-20 to the end of the last year, nobody in the NHL had saved more cumulative goals saved above expectation, according to Evolving Hockey's model, than Connor Hellebuyck had. The guy played a lot of games, played a lot of minutes, had a lot of high-quality chances to try to stop, so that contributes to opportunity as well. But he was just stealing goals, to use his own phrasing. He says he loves to steal goals, and that's what he's been known for. And, you know, all of the metrics, all of the data, all of the eyeballs say for 4 straight years he's been an absolute wizard when it comes to that theft. I don't think that we've seen that kind of wizardry quite yet. If you go into the numbers, you can isolate it a little bit. His 5-on-5 save percentage, it's above average, actually. It's not elite. It's not Connor Hellebuyck being the best goaltender in the NHL. That's obviously not the case, but it's above average. So it's not falling off necessarily, but that PK and the seams it gives up, and, you know, Hellebuyck not just flat out stealing impossible goals, that's kind of led to a drop off in those numbers. And I think that when, you know, obviously I have a numbers influence in how I see things. One of the things that we know is over the long haul, percentages like shooting percentage, save percentage, they tend to regress or return to what the average was, what the established average of this person is. And his established average is great, and I have no reason to believe that he's fallen off of some cliff at this point of his career. So that's a big cause for optimism, because you'd like to think by mid-season, you know, he's putting together an entirely different run of performances and results.
You know, I mean, listen, while we're gushing about the team and talking about all the good things, let's quickly talk about what could be improved, and that is the PK. I mean, when you watch the tape and look back at these first 15 games, is there something that they're not doing this year that they did very well last year? Or is this a combination of, you know, a little bit of puck luck, a few pucks going in that didn't go before, but, you know, for more or less, we expect it to return because it's much of the same personnel and guys that are doing so well in just about every other aspect of their games?
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting one. We're 15 games in, and we like to think about 20 games in as a responsible sample size when it comes to 5-on-5 play, but there's so much more 5-on-5 play than PK play. So we're really dealing with a small sample in terms of trying to say anything absolutely definitive about whether they can bring it around or not, or whether it's been puck luck. But the advantage of that is it's a small enough sample where you can dig through some of the video, and it's a few enough number of minutes where you can actually watch it and remember it and make sense of it. So that kind of contributes to the ability to pick it apart right now. The first thing that I would say is that, I mean, this is Scott Arniel's area of expertise. It's why he was brought onto the club. It's what led to the 7th overall finish last year. So it's a little bit confusing, and it's confusing that the Jets would be so low in the PK standings right now. And it's also kind of confusing that they would look so poor in key moments. They are getting seamed. They are letting passes into that slot. They are second or third to rebounds and posts and any puck that's being contested in the middle of the ice. And by the end of last season, you didn't see that from them. So it's a little bit perplexing. I do want to do one piece of myth busting. Whenever the Jets PK gives up a goal, you see it go around social media. They're so passive. Nobody should be that passive anymore. So many of the league's elite penalty kills are just as passive as Winnipeg's is. It's part of the systemic design. Winnipeg refers to its system as man and a half, where each player has a one primary responsibility and then another player or lane that's sort of their secondary responsibility. I was able to talk to Mason Appleton a little bit about that last week. Their passivity isn't necessarily the problem. It's what happens when the puck gets moved around that PK zone, and as they make their rotations and as everybody adjusts to what their new responsibility is, you're seeing the Jets get seamed because either their bodies end up in the wrong spot or their sticks aren't covering the right lanes. And I think the thing that I'm seeing is that even if they play a consistent, they win a draw, get a clear, they're doing good things that way, even if they're blocking shots, even if they spend 90 seconds defending the way that they are, it seems almost inevitable at this stage that at some point there's going to be a pass into the middle of the ice or a shot from the middle of the ice that they're not able to defend. And I think that's the problem. I mean, fix it. I don't know how to say a word that fixes it, but I think it's a huge part of why all of a sudden they have grade A chances against them and why those goals are going in as well.
Well, it's certainly an area that, that they can improve. And I mean, you've got, a real interesting piece up at The Athletic right now that'll direct people over to check out, that it talks about the solid start and 5 areas that they can improve. And certainly the PK, and it's so entwined with goaltending, but both of those are areas that there still is room to grow. As I'm kind of coming back to the foundation, though, of the way this team is playing at 5-on-5 and their ability to turn things around quickly in transition, create offense from it. And it started off, I think, with the Adam Lowry line really leading by example and dominating the offensive zone and creating legitimate chances off the cycle. We're now seeing the Perfetti line do that, the Scheifele line do that more, and obviously the results are what they are right now. And I know you tweeted about this earlier, and I watched it a couple times. Frank Corrado's breakdown of the Jets' first goal, a perfect example of that, where the Jets are putting the pressure on, not allowing their opponents, the time and space to regroup, move the puck out, to the point where they're changing lines twice during a period of time, not letting the other team get off, and the next thing you know, it's in. What did you think about that breakdown a little bit, and what does that tell you about the style that the Winnipeg Jets are playing and the benefits of it?
Well, I love that breakdown. Frank Corrado, if you're on Twitter, if you look that clip up, you got a former pro player talking to you about exactly what leads into the goal. And I think that one of the things that I obsess about as a concept in hockey is that hockey is connected. What happens on a play where a puck goes into the net, there are things that happened before that play, off camera, away from the puck, that contribute to that moment that makes the highlight reel that everybody sees. And I think Frank Corrado does just an amazing job in that piece, or in that video, of showing all the things that led to it. Because you watch Kyle Connor's goal, there's, you can watch the goal itself and appreciate so many things about it. Watch him hustle to get to his own rebound. That's a nice Kyle Connor play. In the moment, you can watch the way that he curls kind of out of the corner, and he is deliberately exploiting space. All 5 New Jersey Devils defenders' backs are turned to him. They can't see him there. Josh Morrissey sees him there. The pass gets made. Connor gets his shot. He hustles. He gets his rebound. He scores. Okay. Well, he talked to Josh Morrissey about it last night. I asked him about it. He's like, yeah, it was a great cut by him. He was in a position where people didn't see him, and we had them a little bit tired. Well, why did they have them a little bit tired? And it's because of Frank Corrado's video. What he explains in that is that you had a long grinding shift from Adam Lowry's line that prevented a change. And before that, you had good decisions by the Nemestikov line that kept the puck in dangerous areas that didn't let that one New Jersey Devils line get a change. So Winnipeg had 3 lines playing against one. And by the end of it, of course, Kyle Connor, with the skill that he has, was able to find soft ice. And of course, he was able to create a dangerous chance for himself. And I think that's one of the most fascinating things about hockey, is that stuff that happens 2 shifts ago can influence what's happening right now if you look for it through that lens like Corrado offers. So I love that clip, and I think it illustrates something that's going well, not just on that one play for Winnipeg right now, but when all 4, I'll say, even though they didn't have 4 lines last night, when all 4 lines are quality, everybody's leaving that next group in a slightly better position than they would have last season or 2 seasons ago. And I think you're seeing sort of a rising tide float all boats type of situation with Winnipeg right now.
Murat, the first couple of weeks, we couldn't not talk about the Adam Lowry line. Now, of course, we're spending a lot of time talking about Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele exploding along with Alex Iafallo. But in the midst of all of this, Cole Perfetti is putting together consistent performances where he is making a difference in a very, very positive fashion. And I also mentioned that the power play is back. it looks like Nikolai Ehlers is back as well. Thoughts on both of those players, where they're at right now, and what the ceiling might be for that line as we move forward?
They're kind of like the swing vote. You know that you're going to get a certain level of quality and offense from Connor and Scheifele right now, an incredible amount of offense, and that Lowry, Niederreiter, Appleton line has been phenomenal. If you can get one more line going, Winnipeg, like I say, I keep saying wagon. I don't know what that means, but it just feels right. They are a wagon if they have that line going too. And with Cole Perfetti, you sort of always knew if he could get a stretch of games together, stay healthy. Obviously, he's got 15 games in a row to start this season. He was going to get himself into enough situations where his hockey IQ would take over. You give Cole Perfetti a couple of looks at the same context on the ice, he will pick it apart. Nikolai Ehlers, when he scored that goal into an empty net with Akira Schmid supposedly in the net, but moved out of it by Perfetti's pass, he said that that's actually the second time they've pulled off that play this season. That's a case of high hockey IQ taking advantage of a scenario like that. And that's a nice to get Ehlers scoring as well. But my question about Perfetti was always going to be, heading into this season, was he going to end up in the offensive zone and get those looks often enough for that processor of his to take over and start making things look so dangerous? And with Ehlers and Nemesnikov, they found it. And even before Ehlers' goal there on Perfetti's pass, Ehlers made a really desperate play behind the goal line to help win a puck. Nemesnikov won a battle as well. And that's the sort of thing that keeps a guy like Perfetti in those types of situations where if you give him enough of them, he'll become dangerous. So that's an inspiring moment, I think, if you're looking to project Jets success. And of course, the other one is Nikolai Ehlers is historically a great 5-on-5 player. He's only been that in flashes this season, and he's been coming on of late. I don't want to anoint him arrived, but believe me, I like to see him smile and laugh and get a kick out of his fight and joke and all those things. To see the quality of play that he had last night, maybe only 1 2-on-1 you wished he would have shot on. The decisions are there, the speed is there, the goals are there. If he takes off, well, then watch out for the win.
Well, I mean, you mentioned, at times he really has struggled so far this year in the piece, and it is accurate. But I think over the last 2 weeks, we've seen more of the good Ehlers than the one that was struggling. And Scott Arniel said that he thought maybe his best game of the season was that game against the Dallas Stars on Saturday. You follow that up with another performance the way he and his line had last night, being involved in so many different ways, scoring a couple. We all talked about the drop in the gloves earlier today. It's a very, very good sign for the Winnipeg Jets. Now, the biggest question coming up in the next probably 7 to 10 days is, where does Gabriel Velarde go when he comes back? When he first went out, I assumed that he'd probably go back to his spot. But when you look at what a great compliment Alex Iafallo is to Scheifele and Connor and the way they're going right now, all of a sudden Scott Arniel has plenty of options when it comes to Gabriel Velarde. Yeah. What are a few of those options in your mind, and what makes the most sense?
Yeah, unfortunately, Rasmus Kupari is hurt, so the question of who comes out is no longer a question. So I'll get that one out of the way. I'm just clearing the easy parts out, because this is a tough question that the Jets are facing. I think I operate by one rule right now, and that's that the Niederreiter Lowry Appleton rule cannot be messed with. That has been dominant since Niederreiter's arrival at the trade deadline last year, dominant again this year. And again, I talked to Mason Appleton kind of at length about it last week. And he was saying it was actually a piece of regret for him that they got broken up due to injuries in the playoffs last year. He sort of had a, what could we have accomplished kind of vibe to him had they been able to stay together. So that's one that I'd want to keep. And yes, there's good enough players on the Jets that you could rearrange it and you could change that line and the Jets could still have success. But they're so good, I don't have time to mess with that one. So then the question becomes, where in the top 6 does Gabriel Velarde play? He's not going to get the Mathieu Perreault treatment. He's not going to end up on the fourth line to ease him back in or anything like that. So is he going to play right wing? well, if he does that, then does that mean Alex Iafallo pops out? Does that mean the second line gets changed? With Iafallo, I think he's been doing a tremendous job of things that help Connor and Scheifele have the puck. And credit to those guys for their defensive efforts as well so far this season. But nobody is a better forechecker in terms of the lines he takes than Alex Iafallo is. The guy's a good back checker, too. He's knocking down pucks. He did it multiple times against New Jersey last night.
Great stick.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the sort of stuff that you appreciate. It's just the little things that help good things happen. And I talked about how hockey is indirectly connected. Well, Iafallo does stuff that helps people. And Balharry, I think, comes with a pretty positive reputation in that regard, too, to be clear. So you could make that swap and see. But I wonder what kind of runway Balharry is going to need to pop into being his maximum effective self right now. So I wonder about that second line as an ideal landing spot for him. But Perfetti, Ehlers, and Nemesnikov are having such success there. Who do you bump? It doesn't feel fair to Nemesnikov to bump him out of a place where he's had a lot of success. But I could see Perfetti centering Ehlers on the left and Balharry on the right. I could see Balharry in the middle of that line with Perfetti and Ehlers as well, with, again, Nemesnikov bumping down. And maybe I'm leaning that way because Nemesnikov made such a great forecheck to set up Morgan Barron for his goal last night. I'm just inventing chemistry. It was just a good play and a good finish. And maybe it's easier to imagine that. So that's
those guys almost had that same play shorthanded against Dallas on Saturday. And if that had gone in, that would have blown the roof off that place. I mean, probably changes the game as well if it went in. But, I mean, they are generating things together. I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. So maybe that's where I land. Maybe that's a pair that you keep and you say, sorry, Vlad, here you are again on the fourth line, but you're good everywhere, so this is fine. And then you work Balharry up into that second line spot.
Well, if he's going on because we knew that he had the possibility of playing center, and they decided to try him there, and part of it was Cole, getting the opportunity to play center. That didn't last very long. And since he has moved to the wing and Nemesnikov's been in the middle, he has really, really taken off. I'm sure at some point they try Cole back in the middle, but it doesn't seem like they're in a big rush to do that. So maybe it is Balharry that goes in at center at the expense of Nemesnikov, not at all because of anything that he hasn't been doing, though, while he's been in the spot.
Yeah, it reminds me of a few years ago when there was all these lineup configurations and it was just like different versions of good. And that's a fun problem to deal with, just in a logic problem sort of way. Perfetti's an underrated player on the boards and at the blue lines, making sure pucks get in the right hands and getting into the right zones as well. I think part of the reason he's underrated is because he's taken so many heavy hits. Like you see him on the wall there, and there's a sense of concern as well. But I think he's had enough success in those situations to rate him as an effective winger in all three zones. And maybe, I made the argument earlier that the more offensive looks he gets, the more that hockey IQ is going to take over and create dangerous plays for people. Maybe that keeping Balharry in the middle, trying to make Perfetti's life easy, if they believe that's going to keep the puck in the offensive zone more, maybe as a center, Balharry has more of efficacy at that. I'm not sure, but it's an easy argument to make, whether it pans out exactly that way or not.
Murat is with us here from The Athletic on Winnipeg Sports Talk, breaking down the first 15 games of the Winnipeg Jets, looking ahead to a big weekend with Friday and Saturday night games against the Buffalo Sabres and Arizona Coyotes at Canada Life Center. I did want to quickly ask you about the blue line, though. I think I said to you on our last visit that I thought that Neil Pionk, with that Arizona game, and this was right during the aftermath of the Johnson tragedy, played with such a purpose. And he spoke about it afterwards, that maybe sometimes when you're dealing with this, you're not thinking and you're just going out and playing. Followed that up with some other strong games. Thoughts on where Pionk's at right now and the blue line overall, which we've sort of thought has been the one area that the Winnipeg Jets could really improve in. certainly the results lately would indicate that maybe things are coming around for the guys on the blue line as well. What do you think?
Yeah, the results are good. I mean, top pair, outscoring its opposition. Pionk and Dillon outscoring their opposition. The rest, doing just fine. I think it's a 1-1 with Sandberg and Schmidt on the ice. I'm not sure if I've got that exactly right. But that top four has had a lot of success. And that's happened in the past too. Pionk's struggles in the last couple of seasons have sort of, okay, well, you could see the analytical case where actually, no, there's a lot of chaos there. And certainly he hasn't moved that well in the last couple of years. And I kept making the argument, like, maybe he has more mobility in him. I think he's moving great. I think this has been a solid start to the season for him. I think that without any of this stuff, without the tragedy, without the storyline sort of focusing in on him, there'd be a quiet story to tell about Neil Pionk having sort of just a step back season, not emerging as a superstar, but playing a quality game. If you look at the analytics, he looks positive by those, Dom Luszczyszyn's stat cards, all that sort of stuff. His impact defensively has been good. Watch him play. He's a little quicker, a little more assertive, all of those sorts of things. But then you factor in, and last Friday, I guess it's almost a week ago now already, just to stand in a scrum, a couple of feet away from him, as he's talking about a few days before that, speaking at his best friend's celebration of life. And then he scores a really important goal. And he says, there's no coincidence in that. I was so honored that they asked me to speak. It's just so impressive to see somebody process what's going on in a way that is, I want to say, productive, but that doesn't feel like the right word. He is obviously going through the ringer emotionally, as are multiple Winnipeg Jets. You could hear it in Alex Iafalo's voice. That was a very close friendship as well. But Pionk is doing everything in his power to do the right thing. He's taking advantage of team counseling services, and he was open enough to talk about that. He's leaned on his family. His family came up and surprised him. They were in the stands the first game after the tragedy happened. There are so many sort of structural things where you watch the way that people process things. And, personally, I've also been touched by tragedy. I've spoken at my best friend's funeral as well. Like I have that unfortunate link in common with Neil on this one. And just to watch the way that he's walked through this pain, I can imagine him coming through it with strength as a person. To combine that story with the quality of his play, given all of the things that he's going through, I think it's just a remarkable, remarkable season he's having, and a testament to him and his family as well.
I agree.
It's a tough shared bond.
No, you know what? I mean, I get that same way sometimes talking about this or hearing the guys talk about it. And I mean, it's not anything that's going to be going away anytime soon, but, managing that level of grief. And I mean, again, you never want to talk about, positives coming out of, a horrible tragedy. But for individuals, playing with that purpose, playing with, honoring, their friend and, having it turn into, the fight and the will to be your best is something that I think we're seeing right now. I got to ask you about Dylan DeMello. It's interesting. A few people in chat are sort of on number 2. And listen, there are times where there'll be a goal go in and Dylan DeMello might look a little awkward at times or maybe in the wrong spot. Certainly he's sold out before. We've talked about some of the saves that he's made for Connor Hellebuyck at times this year. But for the non-believers in DeMello and his spot with Josh Morrissey, why does it work, and what might some people not be seeing about what he brings to the table and the results that those guys get when they're on the ice?
Yeah, it's been 3 seasons in a row where that pairing has outscored its opposition. When those two guys are on the ice, who scores more goals? Winnipeg, 3 years in a row. The shot attempts, the scoring chances, the expected goals also favor Winnipeg. So you can kind of believe after all this time that it's sustainable quality there, that pairing just flat out works. Now, if you had Dustin Buffalo in there in his prime, could it be even better? Of course, I think so. I mean, there is the argument to be made that sometimes Dylan DeMello gets beat, and that happens. But the total of what's happening is quality for the Jets, and he's helping on that front. The chemistry is good between those two players, and the quality is there. The results are there. So how is he actually doing it? Well, I mean, pulling pucks off of the goal line or making those blocks at the last possible second. I mean, that's an important thing. A little bit less on the highlight reels as well. One of the things that DeMello has always done really, really well is go into a corner, shoulder check on his way in, remember where everybody is, and make a 6-foot pass that just releases pressure. He's going in there. There's a forechecker as well. There's other chaos going on in the zone. He gets to the puck first, makes a short pass to Morrissey or to a winger or to a center, and that player will almost inevitably have just a little bit more time and space than DeMello did when he went into the puck with pressure or went into the corner with pressure. And that's an underrated skill. It's one of those things that, like, there's no highlight clip about it. Even if you clipped a bunch of them in a row, it's just a guy getting a puck and making a short pass. But that adds up, and it has a lot of impact, and it helps the Jets get going north and go the other way. And I don't think this has been Dylan DeMello's best season as a Winnipeg Jet so far, but I still think that it's been quality and that Winnipeg's doing enough. Like, they're outchancing and outscoring their opposition when he's on the ice. So, and I think that those puck retrievals are an enormous part of it for him.
The latest in The Athletic is how the Jets can build off their solid start. 5 areas for improvement. Get on over to The Athletic. Subscribe if you haven't already, and check out Murat's work. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games at the rink, and enjoy the Grey Cup, Murat. We'll look forward to talking to you back next week when we're back from the Hammer.
Right on. Let's have the best time.
You bet. Thanks so much for doing this. There it is, Murat Atesh. And, of course, follow him on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it now, at WPG Murat. We're going to switch from the Jets to the Grey Cup, although I'm sure our next guest will have a take or two on the local hockey club. But, of course, the Grey Cup is Sunday, and we cannot wait. What a season it's been at IG Field, and Princess Auto, of course, welcoming fans before the game to the Princess Auto tailgate zone all season long. Everyone will be doing their own tailgates wherever they're enjoying the Grey Cup this week, and we'll be back at it again next year. But all of our Bomber reports brought to you by a proud sponsor of the Bombers, Princess Auto, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in-store on Panet Road or Portage Avenue West. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Are you ready for the Grey Cup? Do you have your blue out, folks? Listen, if you need to maybe add to the collection, whether you're heading out to Hamilton or repping the blue and gold at a Grey Cup party here in Winnipeg, only one stop you need to make is getting over to Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway. Obviously, they've got Bomber winter wear, a great selection of jerseys, hoodies, jackets, and more, and many exclusives that you won't find anywhere else, along with the biggest Winnipeg Jets selection anywhere, with tons of exclusives there for the Jets as well. Meanwhile, while you're getting ready for the Grey Cup, you can bang off all that hockey holiday shopping as well for the sports fans in your circle with NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, international soccer, and of course, they are the original OG hockey superstore for over 40 years in Winnipeg. It's all there at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, and give them a follow on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Just before we bring in Scooch, of course, Sunday is Grey Cup Sunday. Boston Pizza is an official sponsor of your Winnipeg Blue Bombers and are welcoming Bomber fans to the official Blue Bomber Grey Cup viewing party at BP Kenaston. You'll be able to win official Blue Bomber prize packs all game. Enjoy happy hour special all night, including ice cold Coors Lights and all your BP favorites. We'll have the mascots there, the BP prize wheel, and more. If you want to book a table for the event, give them a phone call, 204-925-4103. Get there early and get loud. And, of course, if you can't make it to BP Kenaston, watch the game on the big screens at your local Boston Pizza. And if you're having a house party, when you order any medium or large gourmet pizza from BP, you'll get your second pizza for 50% off. And you can also order that BP Game Day meal, including 2 large gourmet pizzas and a triple order of wings at 925-4111 or online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's head out east where we'll be heading tonight and welcome in our pal, Joe Pascucci. Scooch, what's going on? How are you?
I'm very good. How about yourself? Looking forward to catching up with you sometime this weekend in Hamilton.
You got it. Yeah, no, we are fired up. I mean, as I say, listen, I mean, this is a fun gig all the time, but it's especially fun when we're talking about a football team on the verge of a dynasty, unquestioned, and not to mention the hockey club. Listen, I know we're going to kind of dive into the Grey Cup and the matchup, but you pay close attention to the Jets. I mean, what have you thought through 15 games?
I love it. I love what I'm seeing. I love this new approach that they're playing with. It's funny because for years I used to say that I've never seen a team turn the puck over more times, whether it's at their blue line or the opposing blue line, than the Winnipeg Jets. And they finally, it seems, for the most part, got that finally out of their game, where they don't turn the puck over, don't get caught in transition. They do dump it in. They do get the defense of the other team to turn around and they put pressure. Finally, finally, it wasn't that hard, but they were so stubborn. They would try to make a cute little pass, and you see it once in a while with this team. They try to make that cute little pass at the blue line, try to make something more fancy the way they want to score a goal. If they just do the sort of meat and potatoes way of scoring, they get their goals. And one other thing that they're doing, they're getting to the front of the net finally. Finally, they're causing some distraction for the goaltender. We always see it with the other teams. They're always standing in front of Connor Hellebuck trying to take away his eyes. And that's another thing the Jets of the past seem to refuse to do. But this Jets team seems willing to take on that task. And I think, everything I've seen from afar, I've really liked this team. And I thought last night watching it, from here in the Greater Toronto area, I didn't think I've heard a louder crowd this season than what I heard last night against when they were playing the Devils. And I don't think the building was close to a sellout.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, the last 2 games, and I've always been one that I kind of can take or leave the afternoon games because they're sometimes sort of sleepy. The Dallas game was awesome on Saturday afternoon. Yep. And, listen, there's a lot of positive things happening, and hopefully we'll see some more butts in the seats. They got Friday and Saturday night games. The team's playing well, so I hope they can get some positive momentum there, much like they're doing on the ice. Listen, we've talked a lot about Mark Scheifele in the past. I mean, he's having a great start to the season after signing the contract.
Awesome.
Kyle Connor and all that.
Yep.
But, I mean, listen, coming out of a game last night where we saw Connor tie for the league lead in goals and Scheifele had just a brilliant game, Ehlers, Perfetti, for me, a lot of it comes back to Adam Lowry as the captain, what he's done, kind of changing the culture, if you will. I know that's an overused word, but also from leading by example. And Joe, you mentioned, doing those simple things, working hard, winning battles, cycling the puck, all that. That line had so much success early on and was carrying the team at times. It seems like, speaking of leading, many of the more skilled Winnipeg Jets are sort of taking a page out of that book. When you add the skill that they have into it, it's showing up on the scoreboard right now. But just thoughts on Adam Lowry's first 15 games as captain and what we've seen night in and night out from he, Appleton, and Nino Niederreiter.
Well, that's a terrific, obviously, third line for the Winnipeg Jets. Sometimes their top line this season, but it's the work that they put in. It certainly seems to have flown a flow to the top line. I mean, Mark Scheifele, I know in the past, I was one of his harshest critics. I was in line with many others, and I said he played with a sense of entitlement. I don't see that anymore in his game. And I mean, that was a great pass last night to Kyle Connor for the goal. But I was more impressed with the back checking. I love it. I love the 200-foot game. I know he struggled a little bit on Saturday. He did a couple of flybys the first one sort of by accident with Iafallo, but the second one on the goal that the shorthanded goal that, more people seem to put on Perfetti. I thought Mark did a flyby on that one, but they're few and far between, those defensive gaffes that he used to make on a constant basis. There's a care in his game now. So I just love the way that Mark Scheifele's playing. I just, like I said earlier, I just wish they would just play more meat and potatoes when they get those 2-on-1 breaks. They always seem to be looking for the pass or, trying not to be selfish. Sometimes you have to be selfish. Take the shot, go for the rebound off the pad, right? So Lowry has just, leading by example is great. The only concern I had when naming him captain was the fact that sometimes he goes into those long scoring droughts, and sometimes the fans sort of get on him about that. But that line, just terrific, just terrific, and even the fourth line. Now things are going to change, obviously, with the injury, but everyone has contributed this year. It's just fantastic to watch from afar.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about the depth that we thought this team has.
Yeah.
They've been showing it through 15 games. Gilbert Marion, this team has taken the identity of the captain. Right there with you on that one, Gilbert. And lots of love for Scooch in the chat. Scooch is a living legend, and he's a fantastic Twitter follow, too. Lots of cool throwback posts. Certainly some of our favorites here. And, speaking of, throwbacks and history, let's move on to the Blue Bombers. 4 straight Western Division titles. First time any team has done that since the dynastic Edmonton teams of the late 70s and 80s. Joe, when you think of what's possible on Sunday, if they raise that Grey Cup, I mean, where do we put this era of Blue Bomber football amongst the greatest in the history of this team since 1930?
Well, I think it goes right alongside the Bud Grant teams of the 1950s and early 60s. I mean, they played in 5 Grey Cups in 6 years. And they'll tell you the year that they didn't go, 1960, that's when they had their best team. So you have to stack it right alongside that group. With the team from the 80s changed a lot. From 1984 to 1988 to 1990, that team changed quite a bit. But the 1950s and 60s Blue Bombers and this edition of the Blue Bombers, I mean, there's a lot of players. That team had a strong nucleus, and they were all together for all those years. So I think you have to rank them right alongside the Bud Grant era teams, and another Grey Cup or two, and maybe they go to top spot.
Well, they'll work on that on Sunday.
Yeah,
it's wild that they're playing Montreal. I mean, I was at the Jet game before the Bomber game, so I wasn't watching it. We were just kind of intermission, like, what the hell? It's 17-3 Montreal. And then you get out of halftime, and it's another pick 6, and going, what the heck is going on? Like, Joe, I think about the matchup between these two teams in the regular season. The Montreal offense scored 6 points against the Blue Bombers. The offense didn't do very much against Toronto, to be perfectly honest, on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's making me nervous how confident I am in the Bombers on the weekend. And because there is a reason why they play the games. But from your perspective, I mean, what do you make of this matchup and the challenge that the Alouettes pose for the Bombers when, let's face it, we all expected it was going to be the double blue?
I'm concerned just as you are, because you know what? I look back at 1988. That Bomber team, wasn't great offensively. And in the playoffs under Sean Salisbury, they only turned the ball over once. That was the key. And they were opportunistic when it came to scoring, but they had a defense, and the defense won them games in the playoffs. And of course, in the Grey Cup, of course, the interception by Mike Gray, but there was also a third down gamble that they stopped the BC Lions on. They blocked a field goal in that game. Rod Hill had an interception. So I'm concerned about that Montreal defense, because that Montreal defense did play well against the Bombers in that game at IG Field. And yes, the offense of Montreal doesn't score, but they don't turn the ball over. Though Cody Fajardo hasn't have a string of good luck against the Bombers. Let's hope that continues. But and you know what? Zach Collaros hasn't been always at his best in those Grey Cup games, and I thought against BC, I mean, the Bomber offense was really strong in that first half. But in the second half, I thought the BC defense got the better of the Bombers and shut them down. They certainly shut the running game down of Brady Oliveira. So, and Montreal has a really good defense now. So if Montreal can stop Brady Oliveira, make Zach Collaros look ordinary, and if Cody Fajardo doesn't turn the ball over against that Bomber defense, which was ferocious against BC, they'll have to come up with another big game. I mean, I think there is a way for Montreal to win that game. I don't want to see it, but I think there is a way.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of it would be on the Bombers and making the mistakes. And what's funny, part of the reason why I have this level of confidence is that the Bombers are just so professional, and they are a team that has learned from their mistakes in the past. And listen, they all remember things that didn't go well in last year's Grey Cup, and I think they'll be working very hard to make sure those don't happen. And you mentioned Collaros. I mean, that game at IG Field, if you recall, he threw 2 pick sixes in that game, and the Bombers won by 30. I mean, they put up 47 in that game, and like as I said, the 17 points was 2 touchdowns on passes thrown by Zach. He was so pissed off about that weeks later. I'm sure that's still in his mind, and I have a feeling, considering that happened in the regular season, it's far less likely to happen on the weekend. But again, that's why they play the games. The Bombers are a favorite. They should be the favorite, and are on the verge of doing something really special.
Historic in terms of the history of this football club. I mean, just the way they've dominated the West, the last 3 seasons. This is truly a special time for Blue Bomber football fans and for the history of this football club.
Speaking of historic seasons, I wanted to ask you about Brady Oliveira. No one has a better grasp of the history of this team than you. I mean, where does Brady's season rank with the best offensive seasons in Bomber history, not quarterbacks?
Well, you'd have to go up against Milt Stego's 2002 season when he was named the most outstanding player. He had the record 23 touchdown receptions. There was that season in 1997, where it seemed like every catch Milt made was like for 40 or 50 yards that season. The Bomber offense didn't have much, but whenever he caught the ball, it was for a big gain. So I guess I would put it up against the Milt Stego's 2002 season, the 23 touchdown catches, which was a record. That's the season I would compare it to. As for running backs, I don't think there is a comparable, because he does also come out of the backfield, catches the ball. I would have loved to have seen, I know it was a meaningless game, I wish it hadn't been, but I would love to have seen him take a run at the overall record by John Cornish for combined yards. I would have loved to have seen that. But he's a special player, and he's going to have a big game against the Alouettes on Sunday. I think he's the key. If the Alouettes stop Brady, I think they have a chance. I think they have a chance to win.
Joe, one of the other, and listen, I'm not sure that the answer to this question really depends a lot on whether this team wins or not on Sunday. But like in 5 to 10 years, how many of the Bombers are going to be up in that ring of honor? Like, they might need a new level for the amount of guys that, frankly, have etched out historic Blue Bomber careers during this Wade Miller, right, Kyle Walters, Mike O'Shea era. And they can basically start building the statue of Osh right now, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, I mean, Wade Miller is in the Bomber Hall of Fame as a player. And I would have to say he should be in the Hall of Fame as a builder, because he certainly rebuilt this franchise from the bottom, after the Joe Mack disaster. and he has elevated this football club, because at that time they were the laughing stock, not only of the CFL, but especially of the city. Nobody wanted anything to do with the Blue Bombers. But Wade, Kyle Walters, that was a brave choice. And then Mike O'Shea. I know there was a few years of struggling there for Mike O'Shea and the football club, but they got it together. And now they're a juggernaut, the Canadian Mafia. And all three of them obviously will be up on the Ring of Honor, or at least in the Bomber Hall of Fame at one point. From this roster, you got to say at least 10, but there's a lot of other players that deserve to be up on that Ring of Honor too, that are ahead of them. So, they may have to wait a while, but they'll be in the Bomber Hall of Fame. Maybe they can do it, one big night. There'll be about 10 of them going in all at once. And that would be fitting, because of the fact that they were all together. This is a team that has been all together, for the last 4 or 5 seasons.
Well, and doing things that, I've never seen in my lifetime, and most people around here haven't.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've ever seen 5 consecutive sellouts at Winnipeg Stadium.
That's the other thing. And you speaking about the builder part of what Wade Miller has done. As great as the team that they've built is on the field, leveraging that and connecting with the fan base in a way that has not happened again during my lifetime. It's a special time. It is the place to be. The games this year, the crowd, the atmospheres have been magical. And as Adam Bighill said after the game, he had never heard that place louder, and that is saying something. It was a scene there on Saturday, and we're looking forward to seeing if they can finish the job coming up on Sunday. Scooch, what just before we go, how are things at work? What's going on at the Hockey Hall of Fame these days?
Well, I've actually come to the end of my the project that I was working on. So now I'm hoping to move on to a different project. Hope to see you Friday at the Legends Luncheon there at Grey Cup Week in Hamilton. Put some videos together for that. And hopefully there's some other opportunities around the corner. And maybe, there'll be another project I can do for the Hockey Hall of Fame. Because I certainly enjoy going to work there.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can certainly get working on some Bomber Hall of Fame stuff, because there's a lot of guys that are going to end up there playing in this game on Sunday. Scooch, depending on the show and when that luncheon is, I may or may not see you then, but we'll certainly see you on the weekend. Cannot wait to get out there later on tonight and have a good time, and we'll see you in the Hammer and see if the Bombers can put a bow on another magical season.
Go Bombers, go.
Thanks, Scooch. There it is, the one and only Joe Pascucci. Follow him, Pascucci015 on Twitter and X. As Bruce mentioned, just some incredible posts with archives of some of the best and sometimes the quirkiest and most interesting moments in Winnipeg sports. Thank me later for that, and a big thanks to Joe for jumping on with us. Well, hey, big game on Sunday. Where are you getting together with the gang? Are you having a big Grey Cup party? As we mentioned, you can get the wings and you get the pizzas from Boston Pizza. But I would suggest, with such a big day for Winnipeg sports, you celebrate it with Winnipeg's best local beer, Little Brown Jug. Some 1919s and generic lager go great with any Grey Cup function. So make sure to get down to your local beer store or the brewery and tap room on William Avenue and stock up for Grey Cup. And heck, while you're at it, you may as well stock up for the upcoming holidays. Of course, Little Brown Jug, great sponsor of ours, and now official partner of the Bombers and official partner of the Jets. And if you're heading out to maybe your first game of the season on Friday or Saturday, don't forget Craft Beer Corner, now at Canada Life Center, generic and 1919 available. Step it up with Winnipeg's best local beer at the Canada Life Center the next time you are there. And hey, I got to give a shout out to our friends Nick and Nikki DQ for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Tell you what, maybe a DQ Bomber themed Grey Cup cake for your party might be a good idea. You can hit them up on Instagram at DQ Winnipeg. If you want to order something online or let them know what you want it done custom made. Pop by and see them, though. DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and the DQ in Niverville. And speaking of Grey Cup parties, maybe you want to cater From Pita Pit, Nick and Nikki now at the DQ out in Niverville would be happy to cater your Grey Cup party or any event, birthday parties, school lunches, all catering options, and they'll deliver to you citywide as well. Hit them up, Niverville at pitapitmb.com, or hit them up on X or Instagram, very simply at Pita Pit Niverville. Pita Pit, healthy, fresh, delicious, fast, so damn good. A favorite of Michael Remis. Speaking of Michael Remis, let's get Remo back in here. Man, I'm fired up to get out there after talking to Scooch. This is going to be a fun weekend.
Get out to Pita Pit? Yeah, I'm fired up too. No, get out to Hamilton. Yeah, it's exciting. Going to see a lot of people who maybe I've been emailing with for years, and we never met in person. So that's kind of cool. Marshall Ferguson, one person, he's in Hamilton, won the marble race a couple weeks ago. Texted him, got a hoodie in my suitcase, ready to give to him. That's one guy who Dusty's going to be out there. Too, maybe in person. I don't know. You guys ever in the same room together? So
well, it's hilarious. Very rarely. Like sometimes we'll go out for beers when he's here to do Bomber games after he's all done. Sometimes he'll do dinner with the TSN crew, and at that time I'm well on my way with the crew somewhere in the city. But we'll definitely Grey Cup it with Nielsen. We'll definitely see Scooch. I can't wait to see Marsh and see what the next few days bring for us. By the way, turn your notifications on. You don't want to miss if we do some additional content over the course of the weekend. Probably plan to crank something out on Grey Cup Saturday at some point in the afternoon. So all you YouTubers, and keep an eye on our social feeds as well. We'll give you a little bit of a heads up on that. Listen, we do want to get to the Coolbet lines, but Remo, you were mentioning we got a little bit of Brady Oliveira, who spoke with the media out in Hamilton as the Bombers are going to get ready to try to reclaim the throne.
Yeah, today is media day, so a lot of guys speaking, but this is Brady Oliveira's his third Grey Cup. The first one was in Hamilton, but here he talked first to us about the feeling around the team for Grey Cup week. Here's Brady.
Definitely a lot of excitement you can feel around the guys, and yeah, I mean, it's good to be back here. We put so much work throughout the year to, get to our end goal of, playing in another Grey Cup. And I think it's good, having the core group of guys experiencing Grey Cup weeks and kind of knowing the ins and outs of what goes on. And we also don't want to think that it's routine-like, but definitely guys being able to experience it can kind of share knowledge to the younger guys of how the week goes. So I think it's definitely good knowing that there's lots of guys on the team that have experienced this week. And we just got to treat it like another game.
All right, so there's Brady Oliveira on the feeling around the team. Here's a little bit more from the Western MOP nominee. Talked about what he learned since his first Grey Cup appearance in Hamilton.
Still think I'm young in my career, but I was a lot younger in my career, and I was a very young and hungry, motivated running back that was ready to go and had to wait his turn, right? But it was good. I was able to sit back and watch my teammates prepare, obviously alongside of them, but not really having a large role in that game, and then being able to see what they did in the game, and knowing that one day my time will come, and being able to showcase what I can do in big moments and big games like this. So. And now we're here, so it's very exciting. Will be my second start in a Grey Cup game, so very appreciative of that and ready to get to work.
One of the other questions that the players are dealing with today is the potential of no Adam Bighill, who has been a mainstay in that Bomber defense throughout this Grey Cup era. Brady Oliveira talked about possibly missing their defensive leader.
Yeah, obviously losing a guy like Biggie, I mean, it's hard to replace a guy like that. A guy is going to go down as one of the all-time greats. So, of course, hard to fill in for him. But that being said, I go up against these linebackers every single day in practice. And, seeing the work that they put in and seeing them fly around. And when they do get their opportunities, guys have gotten opportunities throughout this season at the linebacker position. And guys like Malik, guys like B. Cole stepping in and flying around and making plays has given us confidence going into this week, knowing that, hey, guys are very much capable of stepping in there and doing their job and doing a good job and playing at a high level. So Obviously having Biggie out could hurt us, but I think having Malik and B. Cole on our side will be just fine.
All right, yeah, Malik Clements looking to be the guy, presumably in Big Hill's spot, assuming that he is not able to go. Listen, right from the start of the season, we've been talking about an unfinished business tour for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. There's one more stop on that, and it is Sunday afternoon at Tim Hortons Field. And don't think that the Bombers won't have last year's loss to the Toronto Argonauts in the back of their minds through preparation to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Oliveira expanded on what the Blue Bombers learned from their loss last year.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about it. I thought about it lots throughout my offseason. A lot. Yeah, it was a feeling that I don't want to ever feel again, but it's the nature of the business. You're not going to win them all. And I think it was definitely a good learning experience for lots of guys. For me, myself, for sure. Taking that to the offseason, being critical, how can I improve in lots of areas of my game and bring it into this season and continue to evolve and to help my team get to another championship. And now here we are. So I think it was good. I think that needed to happen for lots of us to look ourselves in the mirror and see, how can we get better? How can we make sure that this doesn't happen again?
When you say you thought about it a lot in the offseason, was it how you felt after the game? Was it specific plays in the game? Like, what was the reoccurring nightmare maybe?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing was the feeling, the feeling of losing. I think we all could probably agree on this, all my teammates, but we hate losing. We play this game to win games and to win championships. So when you work so hard throughout the year and there's so much sacrifice that goes into this and to being where we are today. So when you get here and then that feeling of just defeat, it's a terrible feeling. So I think it was, good. It motivated me a lot through, it ends up being a long off season and you got to stick to the process and continue to, wake up early and stick to your routines of your workouts, your speed workouts, whatever it is. And there's some days where you might not want to do it, but let that thought creep into your mind of, well, do you want to lose another Grey Cup game? And that kind of motivates you a little bit.
Great stuff from the podium with Bombers MOP Brady Oliveira counting down to the 110th Grey Cup. Incredibly, the first ever matchup in the Grey Cup between the Montreal Alouettes and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. All right, before we're done, let's get to the Coolbet lines. And no Jets game tonight, so I can't just hand over another plus 585 winner like we did yesterday with the Winnipeg Sports Talk Parlay. However, we did jump into a one for tonight's game in the lock shop with my guy Pat Gregoire a little earlier today. You can check that out in the replay if you want over at Edmonton Sports Talk, and subscribe to the Lock Shop podcast wherever you get your pods. Just search Lock Shop. 4 games tonight. The Flyers, who have done their fair share of messing up the odd parlay this year, are in Carolina tonight to take on the Hurricanes. Flyers plus 200 on the money line. Canes minus 239. You've got the Kraken and the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton looking for their 3rd straight win, building off the streak that started with a win in Seattle on Saturday. Kraken plus 153. Oilers minus 181, and I'll give you a little tease. I think I'm going to drop the play of the day for Coolbet a little later on with the McDavid goal at minus 113. The Anaheim Ducks, who did the Jets and the rest of the Central a favor, beating the Preds last night in Nashville, are right back at it tonight in a real tough spot on the second end of back-to-back nights, traveling to Denver to take on the Colorado Avalanche. The Ducks are plus 265 underdogs. The Avs are minus 328 favorites. And then the return of Bo Horvat in the nightcap. Canucks and Islanders. Bo Horvat and his new team plus 129 underdogs. And the Vancouver Canucks coming off this great start, minus 152 favorites. We did put together a Lock Shop partner parlay today. We're going to ride with the Canes to beat Philly in regulation. The Avalanche on the puck line to win by 2. So Avalanche minus 1.5. And the Canucks to win. Money line, win anyway, regulation, overtime shootout. That one's in there at plus 475. So Had a lot of success lately with our lock shot partner parlays and the Winnipeg Sports Talk exclusive. So if you like Carolina to win in reg, Colorado to win by 2, and Vancouver to win, get on over. We got a nice boost to plus 475. That's available right now in the Coolbet exclusives. And again, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200. And then put it all in the Bombers, who are 8.5-point favorites as we speak. The line moved yesterday from 7.5 to 8.5. And I see the totals creeped up half a point. Total for the game, 47.5. Bombers minus 385 on the money line, and Montreal plus 305. Remo, that's going to do it, and we should get out of here because we got some packing to do and got a flight to catch.
Yes, I got to put stuff in a suitcase, make sure I'm ready to go. Leaving in a couple hours here, so good idea.
Don't forget any of the important stuff.
Yeah, I got to make sure I do not do that. So.
Checklist is key. So, folks, we're going to see you tomorrow from Hamilton at the Grey Cup. Going to fly out tonight, get there very late or in the early morning, but we'll be ready to go tomorrow. And looking forward to a couple shows heading into a massive Winnipeg sports weekend with the Jets at home on Friday and Saturday night, Buffalo Friday, Arizona Saturday, and then the main event of the weekend, the 110th Grey Cup from Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. We will be there for you. And we should, if all things go well, be back in time to do the show at 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon. Hopefully talking about a third Grey Cup in 4 seasons. That's going to do it for us. A big thanks to Jamie Thomas, who jumped on. Great chat with him. Murat, always a fan favorite of WSTers. And our guy Joe Pascucci, who we'll look forward to seeing on the weekend out in Hamilton. Don't forget, if you haven't already, you can click the link right in the description of this video. Get over to winnipegsports.com and click on the link for the Vita Health Prairie Naturals contest for the Trevor Linden autographed jersey and the full package of the Prairie Naturals supplements. We'll announce more qualifiers tomorrow and Friday on the program. Have a great night, gang, and we'll talk to you tomorrow from the Hammer. The Grey Cup is on. We would have loved to have been there today, but we get out there tonight, and more of the sights and sounds of the Grey Cup, the latest on the Winnipeg Jets and the Bombers' quest for a dynasty tomorrow at 1 p.m. live on YouTube and shortly thereafterwards on your favorite podcast feed. Have a great one, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow from Hamilton.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.